Welcome to the space between two lines. I'm Alex Saunders, and this is a space for real, honest conversations about fertility, pregnancy loss, and the journey to parenthood. Here, we hear the stories of people navigating the highs, the lows, and everything in between. A place to feel seen, understood, and less alone. Because every story matters, and so does yours. Vivien joins us today to share her journey through termination for medical reasons, pregnancy loss, and the complicated path of trying again. She shares her story in the hope that if it helps one other parent feel less alone in this incredibly complex space, then something meaningful can come from speaking about this. This is a trigger warning that we will be discussing pregnancy loss and termination of pregnancy. If now isn't the right time for you to listen, please come back at a better time. Welcome to the podcast, Vivien. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story today. Do you want to start by introducing yourself to our listeners and telling us a little bit about what your life looks like at the moment?
Yeah, so my name is Vivien, as you can tell probably by the accent. I am originally from Ireland with mixed parents and have been living in Sydney, Australia for the last 7 years. And yeah, this is first year of marriage. So just celebrated our first anniversary, but also a newly, I suppose, grieving angel mommy, as I call myself. So I've always wanted to be a mommy. I think ever since I was in secondary school, always had that maternal air about me. And I was just always around kids. I'm the oldest of 25 grandchildren. And I suppose it was always a conversation. I'm with my husband about 14 years. We know each other about 18. So it was always a conversation that we had. So the plan was we get married and straight after the wedding, that's when we'd be trying to start a family. So that was the plan. We got married December 2024. I took my implant on out on the 3rd of January and got a few giggles. Everyone was kind of like, oh my God, just relax. And then I got my positive test on the 28th of February. So it was basically our first cycle. We had our honeymoon after the wedding, and then it was the first cycle back in Australia. And I think it was 9 days past ovulation. And whatever way I looked, took the test because I felt a bit on the bus on the way to work. Never in my wildest dreams would have thought it was positive. Went into the shower, came back, and I was like, oh my God, 2 lines. And I was like, okay, what do we do now?
Yeah, I think that's like everyone the first time they get pregnant. Like, what now? So, yeah, what did you do after that? Did you go and see your GP? What were the next steps for you?
Yeah, so it took me about 2 or 3 days to actually tell my husband because I was like, this is definitely not real life. So I am a anxious tester, so I took about 6 other pregnancy tests over the next 2, 3 days, got my digital, and I was like, okay. So did the whole reveal to him, and he was just in shock, number one, and over the moon. So I would have been about 2 weeks pregnant. So we went straight to the GP, and our GP was kind of saying, like, you're 2 weeks. You're gonna have to wait. And I was just like, okay, we'll wait to do the next steps. So he actioned the referral to the hospital. We went for an early scan at 8 weeks. I just could not wait. I was like, I need to know, I need to see that this is real. Even though I was so severely sick, the morning sickness happened straight away. So I was like, okay, this has to be real. And yeah, we went in at 8 weeks for a private scan and everything was fabulous. Heartbeat and everything, the movement, and we were just besotted, over the moon. And we told family, I was like, I'm not waiting this 12 weeks business. That's not me. I said, like, if I have something good, I'm going to share it. And all our friends and our family are over in Ireland or the UK. So we did, the little picture with the baby grow and the ultrasound and everyone, like first grandchild, and it was just such excitement. Like, it was beautiful. And then obviously you have to wait then till the 13 or 14 week then to do your normal date and scan and get your NIPT test done.
Yeah, so it was going to be my question. So you did the NIPT test?
Did the NIPT test, everything came back clear. And I was like, we didn't even know about NIPT tests till everyone was like, you need an NIPT test. And I was like, you just do what everyone else is doing, I suppose. So got that back and went in for the ultrasound then. And at an external place where we got a bit of a package done. And I was with my husband and she was like, oh, he's really wriggly. Like, he's not moving how I want him to move. And can you stand up and sit down and all this business? And that was a bit of the excitement of it. And she said, this was great. That was great. That was great. And we were like, oh, great. But we just couldn't get, I don't know, she said a clear picture of the heart or the head or something because he wasn't in the right position. So she said, can you come back in a few hours? My husband had to go to work. And I was like, yeah, no problem. Came back and did the whole rigmarole again. And this time it was just her bedside manner, which was a bit confusing. They're not meant to speak anyway, but just did not speak. And then she left the room for about what felt like a half an hour, maybe about 5-10 minutes, and came back. And she said, that's okay, just going to send all your results to your GP. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, no problem. So that was fine. And then waited to get the results. So called the GP, and this wasn't my regular GP, went into her about the report, and it was the end of the day, and she was like, duh, 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 duh. Yeah, perfect, no problem. You just have to wait for the phone call for your midwife. And I was like, okay, no problem. So left, went into my food shop. This was about 5:50 in the evening, and just had the report in my hand. And whatever way I looked at the report, it said dilated ventricles
Okay.
on the right hand side of the brain.
And the doctor didn't mention this to you
Didn't mention it. And I was like,
and
what is,
gave you the report without telling
yeah,
you, talking through that information.
yeah. I was like, what is that? Like, so I just left the trolley and it was across the road. So I ran back and I was like, oh, can I just talk to the doctor? I just don't understand this part. And she kind of looked at me and I was like, I need to talk to her. So went in and sat and she's like, oh, looked at it and she's like, I don't know. I don't know. You're going to have to go for your other scan. I'm not sure. They'll follow up with you.
Yeah, okay.
Then I was like, okay, she didn't seem bothered, but then it felt a bit off. So as you do, as soon as I left, got on my phone and just deep dark dive into ventriculomegaly, dilated ventricles. I obviously had to call my husband, and at that point I was like, this is what's on the report. She hasn't said anything. Started to spiral, reached out to my midwife from the hospital. I'd only just been appointed. And she was like, oh, not to worry, not to worry. We'll have a look. All these kind of things. So it took about a couple of days for the midwife to get back. She said the report was sent to the hospital. And by the looks of it, she said, oh, no, like it's baby's still really small. Like it's nothing to be worried about. And I was just like, oh, geez, I've been worried sick. And then she said, I was kind of mad at the ultrasound lady. I was like, why you make me feel like that, I think, and have me stress like that if it was nothing. So then I had a bit of a bee in my bonnet and I was like, well, I needed to go for another one anyway. So I went and had another ultrasound. And before I even got in the bed, I said, listen, this is what the midwife said. And she looked very confused.
Is this the same? Is this a different ultrasound?
This is where I did the NIPT test and
Yeah.
the 13 to 14 week.
Is it a different sonographer though, or is it the same one?
Same sonographer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. And how many weeks are you at this point?
14.
You're 14 weeks. Okay. And you're with the Australian public system?
Yeah.
Yeah, for your care. And so they've recommended going back at 14 weeks to just double check that everything's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because the midwife was like, I don't know why they said this. And because you buy a bit of a bundle, you get 2 ultrasounds and your NIPT test. So I already needed one from her. So I was like, let me just get her to have a look. Maybe he's in a different position now. So I said that to her and she looked very, very confused. And I had a bit of a going in there anyway. I was a little bit pissed off with how the bedside manner was. And so she did the scan again. And she left the room again. And after a couple of minutes, she came back in and she said, The recommendation is that you go to the hospital where you're getting treated to get your following scans from now, and they can go through the report with you.
Okay. And no other information, just that.
No other information than that. So, beside myself. I didn't understand these big words. I didn't understand. It's my first baby. My husband is asking me all these questions because he wasn't there. And I was like, I don't know. This is what they're telling me. So the midwife then said, I'm going to do the referral for maternal fetal medicine. I didn't know what that was. I said, fair, just someone see me, please. So we got in the next week, maternal fetal medicine. By this stage, we had what I saw online. I just was like, this is not my life. This is not what's happening to our baby. There's no way. And everything that's on TikTok and Instagram is just so extreme. And I didn't see any, I think I was looking for some sort of hope on there. So we went to maternal fetal medicine. And if anyone has gone to maternal fetal medicine and you're sitting in that waiting room and you are surrounded by pregnant bellies, and you're just not even able to talk to one another as a couple. You're nearly holding your breath. And I know we were getting phone calls from home because they knew we were due a scan, and we were just ignoring everything. So the concern was built in there. So we went in and we saw our consultant, who was absolutely beautiful. He was so amazing. And he saw the worry in her eyes and he was like, I can only imagine what you're going through. And have you gone on the internet and done some of your own research? And we said we had. And he said, okay. So he said, what we're going to do now, we're going to do a scan. I will talk to you throughout that scan. And then I will discuss with you after what I find. And he was very calm. He was very reassuring. And he talked to us at a level to which we had that level of trust with him, that he was going to keep us and like inform us of what was going on. So went in for the ultrasound. This ultrasound tech was a sonographer. She was amazing, beautiful. She started from the very tips of his toes, beautiful, loads of movement, strong legs, spleen, bladder, worked, heart is pumping amazing. Look at his arms moving, fantastic. Went up to his head and she took the pictures of the head. We didn't know what we were looking for. That was fine. And she said, I'm just going to finish that off now and then you'll see the consultant in the room. So he came in and he said, we're just going to be chit-chatting here in the corner. It's just our lingo. Don't worry. I will let you know. So that was fine. I think as a mom and as you know your body and you get that gut feeling, I had already been prepping myself, whereas for the partner it's very hard. So we got into that consultant room and I was like, there's no way you're brought into these rooms and you're getting any good news, really. That's just how I felt. So he literally brought out a model of the brain and just explained that our son's ventricles were dilated, meaning that he wouldn't be getting the blood flow or the oxygen to parts of his brain that he should be getting. They said the fact that it had been flagged so early would indicate the severity of the ventriculomegaly. He said the fact that your son is 14, 15 weeks at this stage, it's very hard to determine the impact it will have on him and his quality of life at this stage. I said, okay. And then he kind of started to say, like, there's couples, I already knew where the conversation was going. There's couples that will take this on, will get all the information that they could get, and then they will base a decision on whether they will continue a pregnancy or that they would stop the pregnancy. I don't think my husband had read that part online. We are from a Catholic background, so I've never prayed like that in my whole life. But honest, I needed to know the information and I needed to know what was happening.
Yeah. At that point, were you told kind of the different levels of the impact on the quality of life for your baby? Like, I assume like mild to severe, or was it after that that you started doing that kind of research?
At that point, for our son's size and age, it was quite prominent, I would say.
Yeah. Alright.
They said you have severe, you have mild, and then you have really, really mild, medium, and then severe. The really mild can end up kind of resolving itself as the baby grows. The mild may have some kind of impact on their development, cognition, speech, all those kind of things. And then severe is very minimal to zero quality of life. At this stage, they couldn't tell us anything more than that because it was so early on. So basically, from there, then it was either we wanted to get as much information. There was no way at that I was going to just take that for that. We needed to get as much information as we could. And that's what we decided to do. So within that space, they bring in a genetic counselor to go through everything going back into your history, into your family's history. And then in regards to that, they wanted to know, has this happened before? Has anyone experienced this, that, and the other? And honestly, there was nothing that we knew. So there were different tests that we could do at that point to kind of determine what was going on. So there was one procedure, it's called an amniothesis. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's when they take fluid from the amnios, the sac, what's that called? Amniotic sac,
Fluid?
where they put a needle right through your stomach into the sac, and then they take the fluid out where they can test it for the genetic makeup and see if there's any traces of what's happening there or any indicators. There is a massive risk of miscarriage having that procedure.
How was it making that decision?
I made it in 2 seconds because if I had the ability to get some information from my son, I was going to do it. It literally happened 15 minutes later, unmedicated, very triggering because they have to, it's the specialist, then they have to have another specialist there to sign paperwork. We had to sign a lot of paperwork, and then the sonographer. And during that procedure, they have to use the ultrasound machine to make sure that they don't hit my son.
Oh, yeah, that would have been very traumatic. Yeah.
And the traumatic part of that was the other specialist that came in, she was like, "Oh, he's a wriggly little thing. Oh my goodness, mom," like all these kind of things. And I was kind of like, read the room.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? My husband couldn't even look. He gets weak at blood, never mind a needle that length. And I literally just said, I cannot look at that screen. I can't watch this
Yeah.
because, yeah, couldn't, because it just made it so real. And I must say, the pain was horrendous.
Yeah, I can imagine. Gosh.
Absolutely horrendous. And then you're still trying to process everything. And you've got about, I think did I have a midwife in there as well? And she was holding my foot. And you have all these strange people around you. And you're just trying to concentrate, not stressing your baby out, you know? So that was done.
Yeah. Okay.
From there, then they told us that we would have to wait. If we made the decision to progress and to see how it developed, we'd have to wait 6 to 7 weeks
For those results?
for the result before us to come back and then to rescan our son and then to assess if it had developed any further or it had stayed the size it was.
Yeah, okay. And how long until you could get the results from that test? Was there long to wait for that?
Well, with those kind of, I think there was maybe 10 days, something like that for those. And she was very, very nice with the information. And she literally described it like a bookshelf. The test in which they were doing was to check, say there's 50 books, to check that all 50 books were on the bookshelf. So once they do that test, then if we decide to go further, it would be to check that within the 50 books, all the books had all the right amount of pages within that book. And then you can go further and further and further. So we did get them to test. We did go very deep in the testing, but nothing came back.
Nothing came back. Okay.
Nothing came back.
All right.
So we then had to tell our family, and that was horrendous.
Gosh, I can imagine. I'm so sorry that you've gone through this. I
Yeah.
can't begin to comprehend how hard it would have been. How many weeks are you at this point?
So 16, maybe 17.
17.
Well, when I told them it was 15 weeks because it happened all of a sudden.
And had you and your husband had a conversation around, I guess, what would be the decision maker for you guys? Was it waiting to get those test results? And I guess, how are you both feeling at this time too?
It was in regards to quality of life. That's what it came down to. Like, developmental delays, anything like that. A child can have a beautiful quality of life, right? Beautiful quality of life. But if the quality of life was not, if they weren't aware of where they were or who they were or had no sort of independence at all, or they were in pain. When we were looking online, some of these children were in and out of the hospital constantly as well. It really was coming down to quality of life. What life could we offer our child? And the fact that we were in Sydney, it was the Royal Hospital for Women. Like, they have the most advanced technology and doctors and specialists there. If we are in a position where we can get all this information, and this is how I felt. If I then did not listen to any of that and chose my own, not selfishness, but I put my want over my child's quality of life, I don't think I could ever live with that.
Yeah, for sure.
But obviously, I still had hope. I think every candle in every church in Ireland was lit every single day, every prayer. We have amazing, amazing village around us and support. But in those 6 weeks, we had zero support, as in a professional support.
Did you feel well supported by the medical system throughout that time?
No, my consultant was amazing, but you can't do anything during those weeks. That's not what he's there for. The bereavement midwives there was nothing like that. My midwife that had been assigned to before I found all this, like, she's not MFN, it's a different team. And also, you're in a bubble. I don't remember those 6, 7 weeks because, number one, I'm getting bigger. I'm showing more. I'm feeling more. We went about it like we still had that hope, so we still acted as if it was going to be a good outcome. We went to the baby show, we bought our buggy, we bought like a whole room full of stuff, you know. And everyone said it's going to be fine, it's going to be good. There's nothing in the family. It's going to be okay. Have faith. I just had that part of me. I talked to him every day, and I was just like, this is what my body's meant to be built for. Like, I was just talking to myself in a really, really harsh way. Like, this is meant to be my purpose, and I can't do this, right? And then in my subconscious, maybe I was trying to distance myself emotionally from my pregnancy, which, like, I hate saying, but I have a history of depression, anxiety. So years ago, we were already talking about postpartum and all these things for me to be very mindful, but I just didn't know what to do. And the thought of the impending decision I might have to make, it was a lot of darkness, a lot of dark thoughts. And my marriage, we're in our first year of marriage, like, first 6 months, he was trying to be strong for me. I was trying not to be too emotional. I was still at work. all my colleagues and the setting I work in, everyone was so excited, you know, you're getting big. Oh my God, it's so, you know, and I was just like, I don't know.
You didn't share what you're going through with the people you worked with at that time?
My manager, I was highly emotional. I work in a drug and alcohol rehab and I was a caseworker. So a lot of my work is working with people with traumas and, you know, have gone through traumas. And a lot of women have experienced loss and you're that person for them. And I couldn't be that person for myself. But my manager was amazing. I had a few crash outs. Work was keeping me busy as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even imagine even some of those comments would have been really triggering for you at that time going through that. So it would have been a really hard thing to navigate. Do you want to talk me through when the time came to make a decision and how you and your husband did that?
Yeah. So I suppose the day came. I had already prepped work, as in said, if this goes this way, I'm going to need time off. I'm not a citizen, I'm sponsored. So they're like in regards to maternity leave and all those kind of things, I don't get anything from the government either. So my organization do the 3-month maternity, but those obviously things come into your head as well, as in regards to rent and everything. But even that conversation, like they were trying to advocate on my behalf that I would be supported while I was off. And naively, I said, like, it'd only be 4 weeks. I'll only take 4 weeks if this happens, you know? I'll be back to work. And they were kind of looking at me like, okay. So we went in, same thing again, sat down, pregnant people everywhere. And just that pit in the stomach, if anyone's driven through into the underground parking of your hospital, you're going to MFN, you're seeing the same corridors. That in itself is a trigger. So went in and we started off with a scan. Same sonographer, consultant. And if anyone's ever gone through this, you become an expert at scans. I knew as soon as they went to his head that it got bigger substantially, substantially. And at this point, he had started moving, kicking, everything. So they did it. And I know my husband was just looking at it in sheer hope, you know. And he brought us into the room. And I said, it's gotten worse. And he said it has. It said it's nearly doubled in size. It's severe. It's very severe. And yeah, it was just an outer body experience. In that experience, I was trying to be the strong one because my husband completely just broke. All hope was gone. And the consultant said, there's a question mark on talking, walking, hearing, sight. Just would not be a good outcome for our son. So, yeah, I've never felt like I'm actually getting goosebumps. I've never felt silence like it. And I call it the choiceless choice because it's not a choice, because no one chooses this for their child. So he asked us, he said, do you want to go home and think about it? And at this point, it's really, really horrendous to say. I couldn't go any longer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's no way. For my mental health, there's no way I could go any longer with this because I was huge. So they said, you'll be linked up with a social worker if this was you choose. They talk about, there's a form for postmortem after. They talk, I had never even thought, if anyone is 5 months pregnant, I don't think you're ever thinking of labor. I know, I sure didn't. So the labor, then I had to explain what that would look like. It would be an induction. I didn't know what induction was. So we looked at each other and we knew the decision that we had to make. And it was on the time frame in regards to a TFMR, there's no point in your pregnancy where that's not an option. That's what we were told. Like you could go to 32, 36, 38 weeks in New South Wales. There are different, for every stage of pregnancy that you progress in the way that it happens, there's a different procedure. So once you hit, I was 21 weeks and a few days. Once you hit 23 or 24 weeks, I don't know if you want me to say these things, maybe not.
Yeah, yep,
Are
definitely.
you sure?
Yeah, it's definitely important for someone who's listening and they might, be in a similar position and they want this information. So, and I will just say as well that TFMR is termination for medical reason. Yeah.
Yeah. And even having TFMR as like even that word and the way which it's worded termination, you know, it comes with a weight. It's not that you want to finish, it's not like you're choosing to end your pregnancy for whatever reason, but the way in which it's worded has another, that's, I could talk about that all day. So at 21 weeks, the procedure would be that I would take a tablet. Say this was, so I had him on the Friday, it's Thursday. So I think I had the tablet on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and what that does, it kind of stops the pregnancy hormones from going on. So it kind of, yeah, it starts that process. They book you in then to the birthing unit. So, like anyone that's due to have a baby, you call at 7 in the morning. Hey, my name is, and they'll tell you when to come in. So the night before, I didn't feel anything really, nothing really different. That was the Thursday night, was the night before. And obviously we had the conversations with all the family. And I'm very blessed that my baby brother actually resides here as well. He's only 27. And obviously he's a young guy, he doesn't really understand. So the night before it was, and like we just lied in bed, and like when I tell you my son was literally would have been a soccer player, the way he kicked my husband's hand, like he was going 90 all night. It was great. And I think that was a very important part for my husband, just to feel included, you know? So we went to the hospital. So the night before, I packed my bag. And I remember the weeks beforehand, and I seen all these people online and influencers packing their hospital bags. And I was just like, that is just so not fair. You know, I'm packing mine in a complete daze and looking at things. Oh, will this fit him? Will this? Of course, it's not going to fit him. That's not going to fit him. Packing my bag, doing all the bits, and yeah, get up. We head to the hospital. We go in to the desk and check in. And the naivety of it all, we didn't know what was happening, which I'm blessed. I'm very, very thankful for. We were shown up to the birthing unit. And the one thing I had said to the social worker after we made the decision was try and put me at furthest away from live crying babies as possible, if you can, please. And obviously, maybe not be possible, but I said, I beg you, please do that for me. So brought us up, and thank all that beautiful staff. We were brought to the far end of the birthing unit, well away from a lot of people. The first thing I notice is a butterfly on the door. I was like, well, that's lovely, isn't it? That's nice. We were completely out of it. Went in, beautiful room. I was like, oh my God. We were like, isn't this gorgeous? Isn't this a lovely room? Like, and we were just so like not prepared for what was about to happen at all. So got settled, and we were there for about an hour, and this lovely nurse comes in, or midwife, and she explains that for an induction, it's a tablet that they place in the cervix. And you can do it every couple of hours, but you're only allowed 5 within a 24-hour period. And if you do not birth within that 24-hour period, you have to wait till the following day.
Okay.
I was like, okay. She said it's going to take a while to kick in. So get you into your comfies or whatever, and literally insert, it was very, very painful now, insert the tablet up in your cervix. And she said, yeah, just let us know if you need anything. It took about 3 goes to put in the cannula. God, I think she was so nervous about the whole experience. God love her. She said, I'm going to get someone else. I don't want to hurt you. And I said, listen, at this stage, I don't feel anything. So first 45 minutes happens. That's fine. We're watching movies and stuff like that. And then I'm just like, oof. Like, I didn't know what to expect, but the cramping started to happen. And then the second hour I started to get very, very uncomfortable. So she recommended, the bath, the shower, the bouncy ball. And so I got into the bath and it's been on for a couple of hours. And my husband was just like, "Babe, I'm so sorry. I just don't know what to do. I feel really helpless." And he was just like rubbing my shoulder. I said, "No, you're doing everything that I don't even know what I need." Then a few hours under the shower. Then I was on the ball. Nothing was really happening. It was just really uncomfortable. Our consultant came up and he was just so beautiful. I was in the bed at this stage. I think it was 3 hours in, and he sat on the ball. He was just hopping up and down. I was just like, okay. And he was just chatting to us anyway, and out of nowhere, I just felt this gush. And I was like, I'm not sure, but I think my water's just gone. And I said, probably, yeah. And I was like, okay, is that okay? And he said, that's fine. So this is 10 hours coming into labor now. It was getting very, very uncomfortable. But the one thing that does stick with me was from all the movies you see and everything, there was no monitor for the baby. Do you know how you see the heart? That wasn't in the room. And the painkillers that I was allowed was morphine, and I was allowed that every time I had a tablet. But like it was very, very strong. And obviously someone that's going through a normal delivery wouldn't be able to have that. So I was getting exhausted at this stage, and my brother came in and he brought, I remember, a Caesar salad. I was like, of all things you brought in. And he just chilled with us, and he actually fell asleep. And I must have fell asleep because I woke up. It was a double bed, so my husband could sleep in the bed. And I woke up and I felt like I needed to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom. This is about 3 o'clock in the morning. Didn't want to wake them with the light, so I just went and came back out. And then about half an hour later, I needed to go again. But I turned on the light this time, and oh, yeah, it had started in my sleep. So I was so highly medicated
Yeah.
that I obviously had slept through a lot of the contractions. And all I did was scream. And the two lads were like, they just got started. And I was like, go and get the midwife. And I could see the two of them, they just froze. I was like, get them. He's here. So they went and got them. And then I started to have a panic attack then. She came in lovely and tried to just calm me down. So it was all got a bit kind of hectic around. And the more I was panicking, the more I couldn't do much. So I was then panicking that I was hurting him. And one thing that I didn't say, the social worker did say the couple of days before, she said there is a small chance that he will be born breathing. Small chance. Just to be aware. May not happen. So I held on to that. Held on to that. And it was horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. And we were very scared. I'm not going to be ashamed to say that I didn't know what a 21-week baby would look like. We didn't. And at one stage, my brother was here, my husband was here, and my brother saw bits of his, like what no brother should see. And yeah, it was horrendous.
Gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. But he entered the world on the 5th of July, 4:45 in the morning. And there was one thing where I was like, they took him over to the side, and I was like to my husband, go and get him. And I could see the fear in his face. So I said, my brother, please go, don't leave him on his own. And my husband went, and he just fell in love with him. At this stage of the birth, my placenta hadn't come out. And they said that they tried their best. I was on the labor chair, I was pushing, they gave me more of the, I don't know what it's called, to bring on the contractions again.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't. And they said she needs surgery. I was just like, oh my God. So they were prepping me for surgery. And I had already talked to Joe about it. I didn't want a epidural or anything like that. And they came over, and my baby is Ziggy Joe was his name, sorry. Ziggy Joe. As soon as I saw his face, my husband is Joe. And I had Ziggy, and I was like, he had his dad's mouth, and I was like, he's Ziggy Joe. and they put him in my arms. At this stage, I had so much morphine as well, which I just feel so bad about. And they were prepping me and they were going through everything with my husband. I just couldn't listen. And they said, do you want a epidural? I said, no. Do you want to be put asleep? And I said, just at this stage, just put me to sleep. So I was gone for 2.5 hours. My husband had 2.5 hours with my child, or our child,
Oh my
to
God.
himself.
Oh,
Yeah, he sang to him, he played music. I suppose at that point I was just exhausted. It was like 16 hours, it was 17 hours labor. I think as soon as Ziggy was born, my brother freaked out and he's like, I'm gonna ring mom. And they were ringing people, and all I could hear was my mother wailing in the back, like, and it was just, everything was just, I was just too overstimulated, too triggering. So I needed to go to sleep. So when I came back, obviously highly medicated, they just popped me in bed. They had Ziggy wrapped up, and there's a picture of me, and my eyes are closed, and there's such a big smile on my face because I think I forgot. I forgot what happened. So we had a beautiful few hours with the cold cot. And from there, then, and they said he needs to rest now, meaning, he needs to go into the cold. And from there, they gave me a tablet so the milk didn't come through. That was another tablet. And from there, I don't remember. We were very blessed to have a butterfly room in our hospital where you could spend time with your baby. It didn't look like a hospital room. We spent 3 beautiful days there with him. No rush at all, but it came to a point where, like, there were so many phone calls with family and everything, and we got him baptized. That was beautiful. But I suppose, being religious but not very religious, I just prayed for protection of him. Just protect my child. Yeah. Which was horrible. And from there, we got to bath him with the social workers are amazing. Got to change him, got to do his keepsakes. There's a beautiful organization called Bears of Hope that we got linked in with as well, which is beautiful for child loss and pregnancy loss, and got all those little keepsakes, which was gorgeous. And then I suppose, without going too far, when your baby has enough, you have to kind of say bye.
yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose from there, which funeral directors do you want?
Oh, yeah.
What do you want to happen? I love Australia, but I don't know if we're here forever. So if I buried my child here, you're not getting this mother out of Australia. And I was always not very against cremation, but it was never something I would ever choose. But that's what we chose. So me envisioning my leaving the hospital with the car seat and dad walking out with the baby, we left with a Bears of Hope bag, information booklets, and a keepsake box, which they made with his little hat and everything. And yeah, I had to go home to our house. But at this point, due to the nature of how the actual birth started, I was unable to go to the toilet on my own through flashbacks. My husband had to be in the toilet every single time I went to the bathroom. Every single time. And I suppose, yeah, that started the after part.
Yeah. What was it like moving through those first few weeks? I can imagine, obviously, you've been through so much, but you're also experiencing postpartum at the same time. And I guess that's probably something that you probably weren't prepared for either, or even going through labor to that extent. Were you prepared for that walking into it? No.
No, and I'm kind of thankful that I wasn't prepared for it,
Okay. Yeah.
because I think my anxiety would have been higher. The labor part, I suppose anyone that's gone through a loss or been in a delivery room where your child is unfortunately not living. A labor room when your child is not living is the quietest, most deafening silence you'll ever imagine. So we were blessed, like at our door there was flowers, and I suppose over the coming weeks there was the food deliveries. I think that's a big thing in Australia, which I love, is like do practical things for people, you know. The flowers got a bit much. It smelled like a funeral home. So we had to kind of stop that. My husband, if it wasn't for my husband, he has no experience with children whatsoever. And the way in which that man like became a dad overnight, the way in which he was with our son after he cooked, he helped me with my diapers, my self-care. He allowed me this time and space, but also being in bed and being indoors was triggering for him. He needed fresh air to be outside, whereas I was allergic to that. Obviously, I was very sore. I was bleeding postpartum, the sweats. No one told me about the sweats. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I suppose the biggest thing was the emptiness of my body. I felt empty, useless, breathless, and just going from having your child inside you, to nothing. And then you're getting these phantom twinges or kicks. So your brain, postpartum or whatever it was, is like, maybe this is not real, right? I didn't sleep. I slept maybe bits during the day. At 4:25 each morning, I would see that clock. I didn't sleep for, I think in total in this whole journey, it was 5 months. From Thursday to Monday, I didn't sleep. And that was PTSD. The midwives were very concerned, especially because I indicated that I couldn't go to the bathroom on my own. They checked in daily. I couldn't do it. I think it was 5 days after we had to go to, what was it called? A Centrelink, to do the birth/death certificate.
Okay. Yep.
So it was one of my first days out of the house. As soon as we went up to the counter, lost it. She gave us a little private area. It was beautiful. We went for a walk. We live near Maroubra Beach. We got married in Maroubra Beach as well, which was fabulous. And you wouldn't believe it, but there was one day we just sat and I just sobbed, barely able to walk. And this, I don't like dogs, but a dog started to come near me, and I was like, what is this dog keeps circling back and forth? And whatever way, I just sat and I was just staring at this dog, and he came up, and on his thing was Ziggy.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, you're here. I hear you. Anything like that, I was gripping on to.
Yeah.
And I suppose the PTSD, the intrusive thoughts started to come. Yeah, the darkness definitely started to come. But then I was scrolling online, trying to find something that I could relate to, just something similar. And then I nearly went looking for it. I was typing in everything I could to find. And the community that I saw online and that opened up to me was mind blowing, but brought so much comfort. If anyone saw my history, they'd be kind of like very concerned. And that gave me a lot of support. It made me feel like I wasn't alone. But then when I started to go and look for ventriculomegaly, and you see people that didn't make our decision with their babies, then I started to spiral the other way. So you're in your head, did I make the right decision? It wasn't a choice, but you're seeing these families that didn't choose to end the pregnancy, and you're seeing the babies, right? And then you've got the announcements, the external announcements happening, right? But I chose, not in clear mind, but to go back to work 3 weeks later.
Do you think that kind of helped you navigate that time? Was that the right choice for you?
I think my husband was very supportive of it, obviously very concerned that me being in the house by myself, let's just say. For me, I suppose the team was prepped before I came, which was good. I had to get up in the morning. I had to do these things. I became a pro at masking. I wasn't client facing for about a month, which was good because all my clients knew I was pregnant and they were every step of the way. They were very excited as well. So I did have one or two instances where a client came up to me. I was hiding in the office, but maybe I needed to go bathroom. They were like, because I was still obviously had my bump, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, like, how are you feeling? What stage are you in?" And I just had to go with it. Just had to go with it, right? But the social worker did say to me, the longer you go on, the supports and the wraparound support that you have, not fall to their own, but tends to die down. And I think we got in a habit he said, well, Joe said, every morning I woke up, it's like I dreamt like it didn't happen. And every morning that I woke up, it was another like slap in the face. The reality would come when I'd wake up of the situation. So then to manage that situation, we used to ring home to distract ourselves. Midwife still very concerned, recommended EDMR therapy, the eye therapy, but listen, it's expensive, right? Really, really expensive.
Were you offered any counselling throughout that time, or did you seek any psychological support?
I have history of going to like having a psychologist before, but the Bears of Hope, I kind of looked more into that, and they offer free counseling to both parents as long as you need. But I started that maybe 2 months down. I just wasn't ready to talk. And I still wasn't leaving the house apart from work as well. So that was hard. And I had to take into account my husband, and also my brother was quite traumatized as well. So I was very worried for him as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Thank you. You've been so generous with your story today. I've just got a couple more questions, but we're running out of time. So I'll quickly ask you. I guess just around termination for medical reasons, is there anything that you wish people knew more about this? Or did you have any advice for someone who might be currently navigating it and about to maybe go through it?
Yeah, I suppose a loss anyway will change you as a person. Like I'm a very different person today. And you can feel the isolation 100% as a grieving parent. But the extra layer of termination for medical reasons, there is that layer of shame and guilt that is tied to it. It is a choiceless choice. No parent would ever choose this for their child. No way. But as someone said to me, I think it was my brother, and it's hard for me to even take it in now, but it was the biggest act of love and the kindest thing you could have done for your son, that all he knew was love. He didn't know pain, he didn't know suffering, he didn't have any experience of that. All he knew was love. But I think as well, you know, you can't compare losses. And when you're going through a TMFR, you might say, oh, someone that's gone through a miscarriage, well, they didn't choose that. And someone that's gone through a stillbirth, well, they didn't choose that. You didn't. You didn't. And it was a choice that has been taken out of your control as well. And I just think that it's very hard to talk about it. I know my thing is, if I didn't talk, it would be a very dark place. And that, just having that level of understanding for the parent, you're never going to understand what they've gone through. But this choice is something that they will have to live with for the rest of their lives. They may question it for the rest of their lives. But yeah, I think a level of understanding for the parents, because I see a lot online where a lot of TFMR parents do get a lot of hate around it. They're questioned about it, and they're judged on it as well.
Which is awful. Yeah. Okay. And just finally, how have you kept moving through this complex journey? Because I'm sure you're probably still navigating it and moving through, but I guess what keeps you going and how are you moving through this journey?
The last time I saw my son, I promised him that mom would be okay, and promised him that she might stay or be in bed for a while, but she will get out of bed, and that she will try her best, and that she would always speak his name and share, and I suppose look after his daddy as well, and just try and live life as if, knowing that he'd be around as well to make him proud. I started sharing my story very early on, just as a way of therapy for myself, just to bring that level of awareness, because it is still such a taboo. Loss, grief, child loss, TFMR, such a taboo. And it's, I suppose, especially in postpartum, my arms are empty. I'm still postpartum, you know. I still have a child. He may not be living, he's still here. And I suppose by engaging in mental health support counseling, by leaning into the supports that I know work for me, my family and friends, by trying to not be as hard on myself, to really pour into my marriage. We're a newly married couple, This can separate a lot of parents, and it has separated a lot of parents. And yeah, just going to this next stage, who knows what that entails as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And then just finally, is there anything you wanted to say about Ziggy Joe or anything that you've done to honor his legacy?
Yeah, so both here in Ireland, he had a beautiful, I suppose it was called a Mass of Angels in Ireland, where all of our extended families came and celebrated Ziggy Joe and did a beautiful balloon release. I know a lot of my family have either planted trees or plants. My mother was very against tattoos. She's got 2 tattoos for her grandson now, which is gorgeous. I think a big thing with loss I had never seen before, but we have pictures everywhere. Our home has pictures. We have a lovely little area for him. My mother's house, my aunties have jewelry. He's everywhere. My brother, who's actually in the delivery room, paid for me to go home 2 months ago to spread his ashes. So I got to go home and be with my family, bring Ziggy home. So that brought me a lot of peace. Our family over here, our friends, we did a lovely due date release. So we went and put roses into the ocean in Maruba Beach. There was about 30, 40 of us, which really helped for us as well. And I suppose, yeah, just making sure that we say his name every day. I kiss his picture every day. And I'll always be his mommy as well. So yesterday was actually Mother's Day in Ireland. So yeah, I am a mom. I'm still a mom. Yeah, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. You're incredible, and you've been so
Thank
generous with your story, and just, yeah, you're strong, and I'm in awe of your strength. And I think that this is a really important conversation for anyone who might be navigating something similar or feeling quite isolated at the moment. This will be something that will be really helpful for them. So we might also, you said you've been sharing online, so we might link in your Instagram and TikTok. We'll link those in the show notes as well, so people can find you and follow your journey as well. It will be helpful for them.
thank you so much. And thank you so much for allowing, lost parents to have a platform as well. Because I know it can be really, really hard. And just having similar stories or just following people's journeys, it can be so, so important for a lost parent just to feel some sort of connection. So thank you for that.
100%. No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been The Space Between Two Lines. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and register on our website to share your story. The link is in the bio. Until next time.